Love you, babe. Cruising. Check out the sun though. Wow.
What is up? My name is Steph and welcome back to my channel, Mountain High Life. Today, I'm going to be reviewing my experience of the 2024 Never Summer 100K. But before we get into today's video, I post ultra training, trail running, and mountain vlogs. So if that appeals or interests you, consider subscribing. It helps the channel. And if not, I hope you enjoy the video. Without further ado, let's jump right in. This year, the Never Summer 100K took place on Saturday, July 27th, 2024. This is a 66-mile race that boasts a stout 14,450 feet of climbing and then some, and sits at an average elevation of 10,000 feet. This course is known to be tough and rugged and requires strong legs and a stronger mind. Although preparation for this race began months ago for me, it felt like things really started to come together on Friday, July 27th. On Thursday, July 25th. We spent the majority of Thursday making final preparations like a trip to the grocery store, putting drop bags together, finalizing our packing, and reviewing our plan for crewing. Once we felt settled, we loaded up my car and headed for just shy of a 2-hour drive up Colorado 14 to the Gould Community Center, where the kind folks of the community center were kind enough to let us camp and utilize their area for the start and finish of both the Never Summer 60K and 100K. Friday morning, July 26, 2024, the Never Summer 60K took off at 5:30 a.m. It was really cool to watch the race start from the comfort of my sleeping bag as runners quickly ran into the mountains of State Forest State Park. So here we are, Friday. It's about 11:10 a.m. and we had our camp all set up. I slept really bad last night, but the 60K is racing today. They're about 5.5 hours in, so I would guess sooner rather than later we'll see someone roll through, but got the coolest people next to us. It's been really great talking to them, but Dad's here. Chandler's going to be headed here soon. Focus for today, rest, get a shakeout run in, pack it, pick up, get everything ready as much as possible for tomorrow. Drink plenty of water, eat good food, and yeah, just mentally start getting ready. Feeling excited. I think I had a hard time sleeping last night because I'm just excited to get this going and rolling. A little chilly. We're at about 9,000 feet, so getting a little acclimated to the altitude. Dad came back with some swag. Show him what you got. You got a little hat.
And we took a dive into the clothing.
Look at that. A little puffy vest. The rest of Friday was pretty much spent just relaxing, hanging around, eating some food, getting some last-minute preparations for the race together, watching runners return from the 60K, and just taking in the mountain views. Later that evening, Chandler and I set out on a little shakeout run, which ended up being the first few miles of the course. Upon returning to our campsite, we made as many preparations as possible, got cleaned up, ate some food, and got to bed relatively early in hopes of getting a decent night of sleep before the race. And just like that, before I knew it, race day was here.
Welcome to the 10th running of the Never Summer 100.
Alright, I have to go potty. I geared up, had some coffee, and mentally prepared for the adventure ahead. Good morning. It's 5 o'clock, race day. Kind of crazy. I have my clothing on. I got my sunscreen on. Gotta get my glitter on. Gotta get my race on. But yeah, I'm feeling pretty good. I didn't sleep good. What's new? Yeah, I'm just kind of feeling ready to get out, find my rhythm, and see what today has in store. I think my nerves are finally starting to kick in. But I have about 15 minutes and then I have to make my way over to the start line. Yeah, I need to drink some water. I'll get a muffin and everything going, but it's crazy. The day has arrived. The day has arrived. So we'll see what we got going on. I think the part I'm most nervous for today is what is in store for me after the Ruby Jewel aid station, which is at mile 31.5, so just shy of the halfway point. I won't see my crew until mile 51, so it'll be like a 20-mile stretch that I won't see them for, which will be kind of long. Yeah, just gonna try to think of it like aid station to aid station, 1 mile at a time, 1 foot in front of the other. Yeah, maybe I'm a little nervous, you know. But yeah, we're gonna get moving, get over to the start line here soon, and I'll see you guys when it's time to get rolling. Despite trying to be proactive and starting my preparations days before the race, waking up an hour and a half before start time, and having less than a quarter of a mile walk to the start line, I ended up getting down to the wire with making it over to the start line. This inevitably led to a pretty critical mistake for me, but I'll get into that in just a moment. At 5:30 a.m., we set out on the start of our adventure, the Never Summer 100K. I used the first few miles to get comfortable, relax, find some presence, and mentally comprehend that we were finally here. For the first maybe 5 miles of this course felt very runnable. I was able to keep a comfortable pace and tried to enjoy the easy terrain through the forest as much as I possibly could. And as I had anticipated for race day, I had no appetite upon starting the day. I even felt borderline nauseous, which I'm no stranger to on race days. My plan to overcome some race day nerves and nausea was to pack my performance purees, which is just applesauce, rice, and maple syrup blended together and put into a squeeze bottle. I knew they'd be easy to force down, and it would be a fast and efficient way to get carbs and calories in to start my race, as I wouldn't see my crew for 20 miles. However, it was somewhere on this stretch of trail that I realized during the rush of the morning, I completely forgot to pack my purees. Now, I did have some solid foods like some bars, and I had even packed a muffin in a Ziploc bag with me, but my plan was to drink the Tailwind I had brought with me and just really try to focus on forcing those bars down. And I had some peace of mind knowing that at mile 19, if the nausea persisted, I would see my crew and we could make modifications to my nutrition and get a hold of those performance purees. But within the first 6 miles of the race, we began our first climb of the day, which was up the 7 Utes Trail. This climb begins on an OHV trail that is steep, very steep. I felt I kept a good pace through the climb that was consistent and not draining. As we approached the summit, it revealed beautiful views of the Noku Crags and other mountains of the Never Summer Range. Immediately following our steep ascent, we had a steep, dusty descent back into the woods. I found this descent and this type of descent to be pretty tough on my quads, and I relied heavily on my poles for stability during descents like this throughout the race. From here, we ran on beautiful single track, which led us to our first aid station at mile 11, Michigan Ditch. From the aid station, I grabbed salted watermelon and I forced parts of a Sturka bar down as best as I could. I also eyed their gels that they had at the aid station. However, after previous race experiences, trying the nutrition that was offered at aid stations and having it go really south, I opted to pass on trying new nutrition during the day. I was open to trying whole foods, but as far as like nutrition itself, powders, gels, gummies, I just am very hesitant and still am very hesitant to try new things on race day. And I knew that I was less than 10 miles from seeing my crew, so I figured just try to force down the food and bars that I did have on me, and we would go ahead and make changes at the Diamond Aid Station. The views of this next section were some of my favorite of the course. Through meadows to more alpine lakes, it was so stunning to run through this area. I felt I kept a steady pace, and I never felt like I was pushing too hard or moving too fast. Things felt very comfortable. Over 14 and a half miles in, my stomach is just not happy. So when I get to the aid station, I'm gonna try to get a lot of liquid nutrition in my performance puree, because trying to eat right now is just, I'm just nauseous, and honestly I'm having really bad, not really bad, but some stomach cramps. Otherwise this course is beautiful. We're just about a third of the way through the climbing. Pretty much everything feels decent other than my stomach. But what's nice is, I don't know, 4.5 miles, and I get to see my crew, which is so exciting. So yeah, we're just rocking and rolling. So far, so good. Mentally, I remained in a good space. However, my stomach really started to cramp on me, and I was noticing that my nausea was exacerbated by any sort of climbing that was relatively steep. This made getting fuel down really hard. When I pulled into the Diamond Aid Station at mile 19, mentally and physically, I felt pretty good, all things considered. I felt I had found a really good rhythm for the first 20-ish miles of the race, but I was concerned about my nutrition. Thankfully, I saw my dad and Chandler for the first time at this aid station, and they stocked my 2 bottles with 2 scoops of Tailwind each, and I finally got my hands on my coveted performance puree that I would be taking with me for the next 10 plus miles. I also brought an Uncrustable for the road, which I forced down on my way out of the aid station. About mile 20, leaving my first cruise station. I got my Tailwind in both bottles, my purees. So mentally I'm feeling a lot better. So we got a big climb through here. I don't know how big, but big. And then I'll see my crew again in about 11 miles. I'm gonna try to get some nutrition in now while I'm moving slow. Upon leaving Diamond, I felt very hopeful that I would be able to kind of make up for the lack of nutrition that I had for the first 20 miles, get some calories in, get some calories down, and hopefully I would kind of make it to my next crew aid station, which was the Ruby Jewel aid station, feeling perhaps even better than I did entering Diamond. But this next section had one heck of a climb. The climb up to Diamond Peak was no joke. I started the climb on another OHV trail that was rocky and dusty, and it eventually led us to single track. Once the trail turned to single track, I swear it did not have a single switchback and just went straight up. And it was the kind of steep that just did not ever let up. And at one point, I had to just stop climbing and just force some nutrition down, because I could tell if I didn't stop, it was going to just go really south for me really quick. So I forced a puree down and I was able to complete the climb. I really can't emphasize enough how steep this section was. That was the most heinous climb I've done all year, like without a doubt. Oh my God. And it was a slow section because it was so steep, but mentally I feel I had a really good head on my shoulders, and when it felt really tough, I would tell myself, as well as the people around me, this is never summer. This is exactly what we signed up for. We are in it. And I really tried to find joy in where we were and what we were doing, which mentally made this part of the course a lot more bearable for me. Following the Diamond climb, we started our descent through an alpine tundra, which led us to the Montgomery aid station. I have a very fond memory of the people that worked that aid station, so I really appreciate the volunteers that were there. Upon leaving Montgomery, I met Greg, who watches the channel, and we both shared a moment talking about our nausea, which mine was still sitting on my shoulders, just really bothering me. And I think at the time when I saw him, I had said something to the effect of, oh, I'd rather be nauseous than have like physical pain in my legs or something. And I just don't think I had enough blood flow to my brain at that point, because that's not really true. Just got through the Montgomery aid station, 26 miles in. Got some watermelon and gummies to go. Still battling my nausea. It seems to come back pretty bad on the climbs. So I'm glad I have liquid nutrition. But yeah, just met Greg. You're a rock star. But yeah, hopefully it'll be down for a little bit. So we'll see. Although I was finding the tailwind and my purees to be helpful, I could tell I was still experiencing some fatigue, a lot of cognitive fatigue, and it was really starting to hit me approaching mile 30. I could feel some of my stoke and my shine was starting to fade, and my fear of what was to come after this next aid station was just getting louder and louder. But thankfully, my next aid station, the Ruby Jewel aid station, was quickly approaching, and the thought of seeing my crew made me so excited. Yeah, we're off here. Thank you.
How much do you need me to fill up? Or you need to top off your puree, right?
Yeah.
For tailwind and stuff, or what?
Yeah, 2 bottles of tailwind.
2 scoops each?
Yeah, and then
1 electrolyte? Same as last time?
yeah.
Okay.
And then just for the applesauce.
Stephanie!
Hey, thank you.
She made it! Thanks, Sam.
I'll see you later, Chandler.
Later, brother. His lady just came through. Yeah, we hiked up the hill together.
Oh, sick. I would love just not the berry puree. I had 2
Got
of
you.
those
Yep.
in the work.
Non-berry, so applesauce.
Yes.
Okay.
And then
We're right
I'm
here.
gonna try to eat a Uncrustable.
Okay, got it out.
Use it off.
Perfect.
Upon entering Ruby Jewel, I had the warmest, best welcome from everybody that was at the aid station. It was amazing.
We'll get you checked in here, and your dad's right down here. See him in the yellow.
Thank you.
Good job, you.
And at Ruby Jewel, I feel I really witnessed my crew shine. My dad restocked my bag. Greg, Chandler's dad, was so kind and took my shoes off, cleaned my feet for me, put new socks on. Kim, Chandler's mom, was right there to go grab me Coke from the aid station, get me anything I needed, help with just support the entire crew, and just be such a great vibe. And Chandler was there to kind of monitor my nutrition and gave me some coaching right before I left the aid station. I also want to mention that for race day, I strategically wore the Janji Sun Chaser hoodie. If you've been following my channel for a while, you've definitely seen me wear my Janji Sun Chaser hoodie because it's pretty much all I wear. The reason for that is because not only are they comfortable, quick drying, and flattering, they offer sun protection that helped take the thought out of reapplying sunscreen at every aid station. With the hood, I was able to rest a handkerchief filled with ice on my neck, as well as protect my neck from the sun. And the sleeves serve to add an additional cooling element when they're doused in water to help prevent me from getting warmer throughout the day. I owe quite a bit of my race day comfort to Janji and their amazing apparel. If you like what you see and you're interested in getting your hands on some insanely comfortable, high quality, unbeatable apparel, click the link in my bio and use my code Mountain High Life for 10% off your order. Thank you so much to Janji for partnering with me, working with me, believing in me, as well as the channel. Before leaving Ruby Jewel, Chandler pulled me aside and had a pretty serious conversation with me.
Concentrate to get some fuel down and relaxing through the heat. And then, because you'll come back real strong, okay? Like in strong as in like you just feel good, you know?
I don't want to feel like
That's what I'm saying. Just, you're okay. And you're doing good right now. Just fuel and cruise. Get it going. As you start feeling good, pick it up as you can, okay?
That Coke helps.
It does. It does. Would you like another sip of Coke before you leave? Okay. And just force it down. Just suck it down. No matter what it is. If it's like a goo, don't even taste it. Don't even chew it. Just swallow it. Okay?
Thank you guys.
We love you.
guys.
Give Pop some love.
I will.
Proud of you, sweetie. Not a problem.
Thank you. Love
You're doing
you.
so good. You have a short aid until water and a quick water stop, and then after that you have
I
another.
have to go to Clear Lake after this, so.
Well, you have a short aid in between.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. a water aid.
Yep. Well,
You can always rip it off.
yeah. You're
Yeah,
gonna
no,
be great,
it's
sweetie.
good.
Just do what you need to do.
Yep.
We're here
got
for
this.
you no matter what. That's right.
got
You
this.
I love
absolutely
you,
do.
Queen.
Love you.
Be safe.
Bye, you guys.
Enjoy, okay?
Love you.
Yeah, there's some aids in between, and then clear. You have your drop, okay?
Before leaving Ruby Jewel, Chandler pulled me aside and managed to get the point across to me that I really needed to get my nutrition together. He told me that he could see the fatigue and my nutritional deficiencies in my eyes, which looking back on photos and footage, I can too. But when he told me that, it really freaked me out. But it also woke me up and made me realize that I had to get it together during this next section of the course. Otherwise, my race could be over prematurely. And this was a big point in the race. I had mentioned earlier that morning when I kind of filmed a little snippet in the tent that I was a little nervous to be leaving the Ruby Jewel aid station. And there were multiple reasons for that. I'd be hitting the halfway mark, which would also make this effort the longest run of my life. It was the middle of the day, which meant any weather varying from hot blazing sun to thunderstorms could give way at any point during the next 20 miles. And lastly, I wouldn't see my crew for 20 miles. But on the flip side, I knew that when I made it to the Canadian aid station, I would be over 51 miles into the race. And at that point, it was just a matter of finishing. So there was good mentality leaving, but also a lot of nerves. Upon leaving Ruby Jewel, I focused so much on getting some fuel in, and I forced it. Just left the aid station. It's 1:40, and we're just about halfway done. Fueling, still dealing with some nausea. 31.25 miles. 3.5. But yeah, really battling nausea, which stinks. But I got some gummies. I just pounded an Uncrustable too, so just gonna take a moment to let the ice on my neck melt and try to get some fuel in. Cause yeah, going's tough. I did make eating solid foods more manageable by taking a bite of solid food and putting some water in my mouth, which I know it's kind of gross, but it did make it easier to chew and to get down, especially while moving and especially while being hot. However, as I pressed on through the race, so did my nausea. We started a big climb up the Hidden Valley Trail that revealed stunning views of alpine lakes and more mountains. However, I felt insanely nauseous during the climb, and I could tell I was beginning to really fall into my first low of the day. I was at over 9,000 feet of climbing. My legs were feeling okay, not bad, but okay, and I was just starting to mentally feel pretty low. But I kept pushing fuel, and I just kept believing and trusting in the motto of just keep going, it'll turn around, you'll have your lows, you'll have your highs, ride the wave. I just kept trying to remind myself this is never summer. This is the adventure and the day I was looking for, and I sure as heck am getting it. And I tried to focus all of my attention on just getting to the next aid station. But around mile 37 was when I was feeling probably my lowest of the day up to that point. And I pulled out my camera and recorded this next little clip. I'll be honest, it's raw for me. It's a little embarrassing because it's personal, but it's real, and I really feel this moment was pivotal for me. Mile 37, we are in it. I am feeling it. Just trying to get food and water down and nutrition and hope that it brings me back and things start turning around. We're gonna finish this. We're gonna f***ing do it. I don't care how long it takes. We're gonna do it. When I spoke the words, I don't care how long it takes, and it just reignited the fire in me and my drive, my motivation. And I knew in that moment that despite any pain, any challenges that lay ahead, I was going to do whatever it took to make it across that finish line. All that I cared about was proving to myself that I was going to do this. And I knew that no matter what the challenge was, I was going to find myself finishing the Never Summer 100K. And at that moment, literally the second I stopped filming, I found mental clarity and a burst of energy. It felt like the fueling I had done for the last 6 miles finally started to kick in and work, and it just felt amazing to finally feel decent. I caught up to a conga line of about 6 men, and I kept up with them for maybe 2 to 2.5 miles. We shared good conversation, kept the stoke up, and just enjoyed running through some insanely beautiful aspen groves towards our next aid station, which was rapidly approaching. Before the Canadian aid station, there was an aid station called Clear Lake 1 and 2. At this point in the course, you run off the loop and basically do an out and back to a little alpine lake. Basically, you hit the same aid station twice. When you arrive to do the out and back, and when you make it back from the out and back. So the first time you hit Clear Lake, it's at about mile 40.5. And at that point, I drank ginger ale. I had a glass of pickle juice. I believe I ate another Uncrustable, and I started the climb up Clear Lake. Starting the climb, I felt pretty strong, all things considered. I was still running flats and some gentle uphills at this point, and I was lucky enough to share quite a few miles throughout the day with Virginia Thomas, who is such a strong, admirable female runner. She really is such an inspiration to me, and I just hold so much respect for her as a runner, as a female athlete. So it was truly an honor to share time on feet with Virginia and just witness some of her greatness. She was such a strong climber, and there was a few climbs. I climbed Diamond closely behind her, and I climbed through Clear Lake pretty close behind her, and she's such a strong runner. So it was really cool to kind of, like I said, share some miles with her. Towards the end of the Clear Lake climb, after Virginia had dropped me, I was experiencing my nausea full force again. It was so hot, and the climb just got pretty steep and technical towards the end. So I slowed down to accommodate the steep climb, and I just mentally knew that the descent down was probably going to be equally as slow. But to prove that we made it to the turnaround point at Clear Lake, we had to hole punch our bib with a little star hole punch. As you'll see, I completed the out and back and started to make my way down. Now I turn around. We are like 44 miles in, dude. It was hot, and it became increasingly harder to run downhill as my quads were just starting to feel very fatigued. Once I returned to Clear Lake for my second time, I had more ginger ale. I grabbed some gels from a drop bag that I had packed, and I pressed on towards Canadian. Again, just forcing more nutrition and fuel down. However, I felt excited and a sense of relief that in 6 miles, I would be approaching the Canadian aid station where I would see my crew. I knew that at that point, the finish line was something that I could see on the very distant horizon, but also I would be able to pick up a pacer. 48 miles in, got about 4 left till the next aid station at mile 52, and I can pick up a pacer. And I've been running for 13 hours and 3 minutes, so I'm hoping I can make it to my next aid station in about 40 minutes. We keep moving. Nausea has dissipated. I've been able to fuel. Shortly after I filmed this, the wide open skies around me filled with clouds, and it started to thunder. I really paid it no mind, as afternoon thunderstorms are common in Colorado, and usually they pass as quickly as they come. So I just didn't really think too much of it. I had an AirPod in one ear as I just kind of wanted some mental stimulation, and I was keeping my vibes high, listening to Don't Stop Me Now by Queen, which is one of my personal favorite songs. And while this song was playing, I actually saw quite a few runners stop to put on raincoats, and I even had one guy say, "We're about to get soaked," and I just kept running and didn't stop to put on a raincoat because I knew I would have warm clothes at the aid station. And so as it started pouring, I actually ended up feeling really good. There was like a soulful rejuvenation with this rain. I think because it had been so hot, it cooled me down. It made my joints feel so much better, and I was able to pick up the pace pretty good around mile 48. Through the rain, I just felt so good. Maybe it was the music, Maybe it was the rain, I don't know, but I was able to pick it up for, I don't know, maybe a mile or so. Mentally, I felt amazing, and physically, I actually started to feel really good again, and I was so stoked. And the rain was not letting up. The mud was getting so thick and so heavy, it was sticking to my shoes and weighing them down and making them so heavy, as well as the mud just being so slick. It kind of became something that was unrunnable. You just had to walk through it, which slowed me down quite a bit. But alas, I had made it to the Canadian aid station.
Here she is, survived a hellstorm. Absolutely, but she's here. Yeah, we need to. Do you have another shirt? Yeah, let's change. No, that's fine. We need to change. Do you want to change your fresh shoes, or there's? I think from what I've heard, there's creek crossings right after this.
I'll just change socks or some shit.
Okay, so you're good.
How far are we?
We're about 100 yards. 100, 150. So
So good to see you.
no, dude, we were like, it came hailing and good and crazy.
Held on.
Yeah, dude. Raincoat.
It's in my bag.
Okay, so let's change shirts and put it on,
Yeah,
and change socks.
Yeah.
What do you want for nutrition? I have some gels and things.
Let's just do gels. If my dad can do the purees. Really good this last section. I ate 2 Uncrustables.
You seem way better than last time I saw you.
Yeah,
Energy wise.
I hit a really low point around mile.
No, we'll just cruise out. We have a good cold night ahead of us.
Yeah.
So,
I want my gloves here.
yep. Okay, so let's change shirt. Let's change socks.
Oh man.
She's doing good. Yeah, she's
You need to work on your
she's feeling better.
Okay.
No, so socks, shirt, socks and shirt. She's gonna change.
Upon meeting my crew, I wanted to change my top, my socks, and my sports bra. And then after I had changed those top layers, I would put on my raincoat. However, I had packed a little stuff sack with an extra long sleeve, an extra sports bra, extra socks, but the stuff sack fell out of the bag that my crew had brought. So my clothes did not make it to Canadian aid station. What was I to do? Well, my amazing father literally just took the merino wool shirt off his back, as well as his insulated water resistant jacket, and just put it on me. I honestly think those 2 pieces of clothing are a huge reason why I made it to the finish. Had I only had my long sleeve under my raincoat, and with how long it continued to rain and how cold it got, I don't think I would have made it to the finish. And being perfectly honest, I feel that that rainstorm is a huge reason why a lot of people did not have the capability to make it to the finish line, because so many people weren't prepared for weather quite like that. Like I said, we don't get a ton of rainstorms that just last for the whole day in Colorado. Usually they come through, rain for 10 minutes, and then it's dry and the sun comes back out. Not that day. Not that day at all. It was crazy. I just really think it's important to acknowledge that I feel like that's where the challenge began for me and so many runners. I did not have clothing that I think would have aided in like proper thermoregulation. I was not prepared, and my dad was, and had he not had those clothes for me, I just don't know if I could have made it through the rest of the night. And I mean, even coming into Canadian, I was soaking wet and like straight up shivering cold at the end of July. Like it was insane weather. So before leaving, I went over, I got some broth to try to warm me up. The wonderful volunteers at Canadian gave me some hand warmers, and I had a conversation with one of the volunteers, and she, at one point while I was shivering, just standing right in front of her, and she looked me in the eye and said, "You have got to get moving." Meanwhile, I look over and I'm staring at everybody in the warming tent, sitting in front of a heater, just like, but I want to take a seat. Oh, I just want to sit in front of the heater so bad. And I think I went over and stood there for a second, realized it wasn't going to do anything. And sure enough, she said to me one more time, "You've got to get moving." And that was something that I don't know who that volunteer was, but she really impacted me and helped me realize, like, we got to get out of here. We got to go. And promptly after that, Chandler and I set off into the night.
Status update. We out here. It is a fucking mud hole. It's pouring. We're soaked. Stephanie's a fucking monster. We're cruising. Check out the sun though. Not bad.
Not bad.
Not bad. Just pouring down rain in a nice field with the queen, the myth, the legend. Good job, babe. It really would be sweet if it stopped fucking raining.
Yeah, it'd be great.
As the sun started to set, the rain slowed and the night began to set in with the cold and the shoe-sucking mud. Knowing the finish would be in sight soon enough, my spirits remained high for the most part as we approached our final aid station, the Bachman aid station.
Get it, Steph. Bachman, let's go. Last 8. Let's get this shit. One runner, one pacer. 175 and a pacer. 175 and a pacer.
Welcome to Boston.
Woo!
Good job, Leonard.
Good job, dude.
Right corner, way to go.
I did tell Chandler as we approached Bachman that I really wanted to be quick. I wanted to use the bathroom, get some broth, and get out of there because at that point we were about 8 miles from the finish. However, upon leaving Bachman, I would meet the darkest part of my entire day. I believe we were 2 miles out from Bachman, so about 6 miles left, and we started the Bachman climb. At this point, it seemed like the Bachman climb was never ending. It was about 2,000 feet, very gradual, very casual, but it just seemed to go forever. And doing it in the dark, it was just so hard to tell how much more climbing we had. I was cold. The mud I had trudged through earlier in the day now had dried, and there were little pebbles in my shoe. When I tried to take my shoes off, I realized just how stiff my legs were and how painful it was to bend down to even pretend to take my shoe off. Chandler had to take my shoes off for me. I kept mentally trying to do the math on how close/far we were from the finish, and it just really, I started to mentally spiral at that point. I really tried so hard to stay mentally strong, remind myself, this is never summer, you're in it, you're doing it, but it was tough. It was really hard, and I attribute so much of like the mental stamina through that section to having Chandler with me, because if I was alone in the dark, I don't know how I would have done it. I laughed during this section. I cried. I made Chandler listen to the Invisible Cinema album by Daily Bread, I think 3 times with me, and he was just so awesome and helped me. He took my shoes off and got the pebbles out. He kept me warm. He kept reminding me to keep fueling. He was just such a great partner through that entire section. Even so, I just felt like it just kept going on forever and ever. I was so ready for the climb to be done and over with so I could start running, pick up the pace, and just get a little bit more momentum to get towards the finish line. But I realized very quickly upon starting the descent that my legs were shot and I could not really run any descents. I could only really walk. My quads by that point were done. And honestly, I think this was hands down the biggest wall I hit in my running career. I was able to run the flats, and it was really hard. We were finally less than a half mile out from the finish, and I was gonna run. I was gonna finish this race in a run, even though it was so slow. That's exactly what I did. And there I was at 12:09 a.m., 18 hours, 39 minutes after I had left the start line.
175. Stephanie from Fort Collins.
I crossed the finish line and completed the Never Summer 100K 2024. This was insanely hard, and I really do wonder how I would have fared had I not faced the weather and conditions that I did at the later parts of the race. I also wonder how many other runners would have found success and been able to cross the finish line themselves, or would have had a better day in general given the conditions we all endured. If I'm being completely honest, it was not the finish I wanted. I mean that in the sense that when I did finish, I didn't really comprehend what I had done. I was just so mentally and physically exhausted that I didn't really truly understand the effort I had put forth that day, and really didn't appreciate everything I had put forth that day. It's taken me a few days to process everything. For the entire experience, start to finish. The climbs, the length, the conditions, the nausea, the everything. In all things considered, I am really so proud of myself. In December of 2023, I signed up for this race not knowing if it was even possible. And for months, it really scared me because it seemed impossible. But I committed fully to this race. I learned about ultras. I put in the miles, I put in the vert, I trained at altitude, I learned about nutrition, and I just full on committed to this race. I navigated full steam ahead into a realm that I had no idea what to expect, and I did not give up. Even in the dark moments of this race that were just so ugly and so hard and so painful, I kept moving and I put one foot in front of the other. And maybe it's because I'm too stubborn to give up and to let something go. Either way, to witness that strength and see that even when I'm in an incredible amount of pain and I'm crying and having a really tough time, I can push through those really tough moments, and I accomplished what I set out to do, and I'm really proud of that. And no, it wasn't a glamorous top 10 finish. No, I was 40 minutes shy of like my slower goal time, but I really don't care because I proved to myself that with the time and effort, I can do it. And I'm just so proud of that. And I just think that's a really cool and really beautiful thing. That being said, I want to give a special shout out to my crew. Thank you, Greg and Kim, for coming out and treating me like your own and taking pride in me and supporting me through these crazy efforts. Thank you to my dad for making the trip out here and taking pride in crewing and being a part of this entire event and even finding inspiration to get out there and go trail run yourself. I'm so proud of you, and I'm so excited to witness your journey and see where you end up on the trails. And honestly, I couldn't have made it through that day without that selfless act of you giving me your clothing to wear. And for the record, he did have another jacket and another shirt. He wasn't just walking around shirtless. But seriously, thank you. That was so incredibly selfless of you. So thank you, Dad. I also want to thank my mom, who was sending me the sweetest supportive messages throughout the day. It was so awesome to have your messages come through on my watch and cheered me on. And although you weren't with me, I know you were with me, Mom. So I love you. And finally, thank you to the love of my life, Chandler. It goes without saying, but I owe this success to you. Thank you for your support, belief in me, always being my rock. I love you so much. Thank you for everything. I want to thank John G again for supporting me. Again, click the link, go check him out, and you can use my code, Mountain High Life. Thank you to NAR Runners for putting on an incredible event that allows people to push the boundaries of what they know of themselves. And thank you. Thank you for watching this video, and thank you all for your support and kind words. I felt so showered with love and support going into this event. Truly, it was just so appreciated and so amazing. So thank you so much for sharing that with me and rooting for me and making me feel so loved. No, I'm not an elite. No, I'm not the fastest. But the fact that you care and have shared this journey with me is just so cool. So thank you. Soon, I will be sharing more of what's next to come. So if you care to tag along, consider subscribing. If you were at Never Summer, please let me know in the comments down below. I'd love to hear about your experience because I know it was a heck of an experience. Thank you again so much for watching. Hope you have a great rest of your day. Hope you get out on some trail today, and I'll see you in my next adventure. Bye.